Well, welcome back to another episode of Lessons into Blessings. I'm your host, Tari Thomas. I have with us someone that I met a short while ago and just really loved hearing her story, her energy to inspire new agents to really just grow and expand their business from a sales standpoint, and just what she's done in the real estate game coming out of the military. It is Ali Garced, kind of quote unquote military agent, from special agent to real estate agent. And we really want to just talk with her through her story on how she's built financial freedom for herself. So if you can welcome with me, Ali Garced.
Hello. Thank you so much for having
Hey.
me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, same here. Same here. I really enjoyed. I loved your energy when I met you in person, and I wanted to just be able to. I just loved your kind of story, and especially as young as you are. And so there's always a bunch of excuses that people have when they're. Me too, right? There's always a bunch of excuses that people have in getting into the game. So I just like to hear a lot of diverse stories of how different people are doing it, getting in the game of real estate and creating that financial freedom for themselves. So, uh, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, again, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So we're gonna jump right in
Let's
on
do it.
just how you go from Air Force to like real estate. Like
Yeah.
that's a big jump. And so tell us a little bit about your story and how you just got into real estate to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I first heard about real estate investing when I was young, and I am so grateful for my parents. My parents actually bought me the book Rich Kid, Poor Kid, which no one ever talks about. It's always Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but they had like a kid spoof, version of it.
Yeah, that is.
So,
I've seen those games, especially the cash flow
yeah.
games that teach kids. So
Yes. So it was like I grew up playing those games. Monopoly is my favorite game, still is my favorite game. So with my dad having been a landlord and like been in the real estate industry, I at the time I was like, I know enough to know that I don't want to do that. I don't want to take
right.
calls from tenants at during dinner time or after and fix a toilet. But he's very hands on. So my experience with that as being like a kid growing up, I was like, I know enough to not want that. Little did I know later on, down the road that there's such thing as property management company where you don't have to take on those calls.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, so I grew up with that, and I'm very grateful for that. My parents are like first generation immigrants, and seeing like having been around their work ethic and just everything. I that was a blessing. So growing up, I grew up in Westchester County in New York, so pretty
Yep.
expensive area. And then I
Yeah.
went to college in North Carolina. And I am the firstborn. My parents were in the mentality again. Huge blessing number two is um, they always told us that our only job, me and my sister, our only job growing up was to get good grades. That was it. They didn't even want us to work during high school. They're like, no, we want you to go to college because we didn't. So
Yeah.
they were trying to get us to go to scholarships, and even if it's
Right.
sports and nothing. I didn't get any scholarships because of either academic or sports. My sister did academically. She's very gifted. So instead, I went to college, and what do you know? It's very expensive. I went to Elon University, North Carolina, small private school. It was like 35, 40 a year. So
Wow.
as a thank you to my parents for growing me up and me and my sister up the way that we did, I wanted to thank them by joining ROTC. So at the time, they were pretty much like giving away scholarships as long as you signed your life on the line. So that's what I did. That's what I did. I signed the dotted line, and I had a 4-year commitment, but also I had a lot of my undergrad taken care of. So I told them after I signed, I was like, hey, by the way, I already did this thing. I joined ROTC. I'm going to be joining the military. You guys don't have to pay nearly as much for my college, because they were very against any other debt aside from real estate. So, and to
That's good.
include college debt. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
graduated college debt free. and in the military. I had a career. I graduated in 2012, where a lot of people in my age group were graduating from college and then having to serve as waiters and waitresses because it was, 2012.
It was tough. It was tough, tough. Yeah, tough space. Yeah.
Yeah, very tough. So I'm fortunate enough to, even though my first duty station was Enid, Oklahoma, and again, I'm from New York, and that was a huge
Right.
change.
Yeah.
So even though I had to go there, I had a career, so, and I had access to the VA loan. And that is where I got started with real estate investing. Um,
Nice.
I, yeah, I purchased my first property 4 years into me being in the military. Originally, I joined the military just thinking it'd be 4 years, do my time, get out, have freedom, do what I want to do. Those 4 years turned into 10, but then I left. So I spent a decade in the Air Force. And during that time, I purchased five properties. And I'm
Wow.
actually under contract now. We actually just signed, me and my wife signed on our eighth altogether. So we will be closing
Wow.
tomorrow on our eighth property. And so the VA loan, it was like the easiest thing to get in, like no down payment, military. You're moving anyway. I feel like
So let me ask
military has
this
such a
question because I
different
think this is
mentality.
important. Let me ask this question just for those people who are former military, currently in. How have you really? I mean, I love the fact that you've been able to utilize the resources that are available to you. I always tell people you should always be scoping out what type of resources are in your space that you have access to that you can utilize to do different things. So you have this VA loan. You not only got your school paid off, which is awesome, but you were able to take that loan and for all the properties, were they all VA loan properties?
No, no,
Okay.
we can have two out at a time.
Okay, two
And
at a time. Okay.
yep. So there is an entitlement like cap. So at the time, actually they changed that in 2021, which I can talk about later too. But I
Yeah.
have two VA loans out right now, and my wife has two VA loans out. So that's four.
There you
And
go.
then yep. And again, that's like zero down payment. That doesn't
Yeah,
mean zero to the table. You have closing
right.
costs, you have the funding fee, which is actually kind of expensive, especially the second time you use that VA loan. But hey,
Yeah,
it's the cost of entry for zero down
yeah,
payment. I think it's a no-brainer.
yeah.
And then the
And
the
a
other
better interest rate,
properties,
right?
and yeah, typically a more favorable interest rate for VA loan.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, it depends on your credit, but as long as your credit's
Understood.
good, yeah,
Yeah,
you're getting
understood.
one of the best rates. Yeah. So then the
And
other
what was your
properties I
strategy?
just saved
Go
up.
ahead.
Yeah, the other properties I just saved up. So the first 4 years where I did not purchase any properties, I didn't really know what to do with the extra income that I had because I was at the time, when I first joined the military, I was making what, like 50,000 a year. I was like, whoop de doo, this is amazing. I have my own, income coming in as my first, salary. Um, I saved as much as I could because Enid, Oklahoma was not a high cost of living area. Beers were $3
Right.
for a pitcher. So I had a lot of money that I could save. So at the time, I didn't really know what else to do. So I saved a lot. I put a lot into index funds, and I let that grow over time as, before I even realized real estate was like a thing. So by the time I knew I was ready to purchase more property, I already had that little like nest egg that was ready to go out of
That's
index
good.
funds. Yeah. So as of right now, my portfolio is like, I would say 60/40, maybe 70/30, 70/30, 70 real estate, 30 index funds.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And the beauty of a lot of those, whether it's an IRA or different things, is you can roll it over and buy real estate. Now, you probably invested your after-taxed money into some of the places so you could shift that money around a little bit
Ex-
easier.
Exactly. Yeah. Did the Roth.
That's cool. So, any strategies that you use in just is it buy kind of every two, buy every? It's just like, hey, as long as we've got enough to soar, and you kind of stayed in the single family space, single family game.
Yeah, I stayed in the single family. So what our strategy is, um, my our strategy now that I'm married, been married for over 3 years, is different from what my strategy would have been if I were single and investing on my own.
Right.
If I were single investing on my own, I would be doing like Craig Kurlop. I don't know if you know him. Like, just, I would
Mm-mm.
live on a mattress behind a curtain. I would rent out every single room of my house. I would go to I'd be eating ramen. Total, like, yeah, it'd be bad. but but because I have a better half and who tells me how to live life the way that I probably should, with a lot more balance in my life, we have to compromise, right? So that we meet in the middle, and it's a happy medium. So she doesn't want to have roommates. She doesn't want to live in a multifamily in Tucson, Arizona, which is where we currently are.
Yeah,
Multifamilies are not always in the best locations.
for
So
sure.
as long as she's happy with the location, we buy properties that are on the market. We're not doing off market deals because we have full time jobs. We don't have time for that to find an off
Yeah.
market property. The wholesalers here, I haven't found a good one that actually knows how to run numbers. So we just buy on the market properties. We save up enough for the down payment and the closing costs if it's not going to be a
Yeah.
VA loan. And then we move in. So it turns into like every 2 years, every year and a half, we're buying
Yeah.
something, moving out of our current personal residence and turning that new property into a personal residence. That's what we
Yeah.
do. That's
And-
what works for
yeah,
us. Yeah.
absolutely. And the beauty of that, if people don't know the strategy, you buy, live in it for 2, move, rent it for 3, and you can avoid, if you sell it within the 5 years that you've lived in it, 2 years, you can avoid some of those capital gains taxes, which is a beautiful thing. Just use
And
that
act
strategy maybe a year, two
absolutely.
years ago. Yeah.
And if you're military, it actually extends to either 10 or 15, but for sure, like 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. You might have to be active. So, ask your CPA on that.
Right. Definitely.
But it extends further than
I
civilians.
love it. I love it. You talked about your parents a little bit, and I just want to filter in just kind of the work ethic and things like that they've kind of like taught you. What do you believe is your superpower that has really helped you? Because now you're in a space, you've hit millionaire status, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I think by the age of 31, right?
Yes.
Yes, which is, a lot of people aspire to do those things and they haven't gotten there. What do you think is your superpower that helped you get there? Do you think it's attributed to kind of your upbringing, things you learned through the military? What are those things that you've been able to identify as like, wow, I'm really great at this, and this is helping me to put fuel to my strategies in real estate or to continue to grow my financial freedom?
Yeah, a few things. So, one, starting with my upbringing, it was interesting seeing the balance that I actually have now in like between my wife and I. So my mom is like, just get up and go. Like, let's move, let's start working, like get your butt out
Yeah,
of bed. It's 6
yeah,
a.m. Like we should have been working. And my dad is
yeah.
a little bit more relaxed, like, hey, it's okay. We can wake up a little later and everything will be fine. So seeing that like growing up, and they both have a strong work ethic. It's just different work ethics.
Right.
At
Yeah.
the time I equated, oh yeah, maybe it is that you wake up early just like my mom and then therefore you're a hard worker. But also it depends on how many, good hours you put into work. Work expands to the time allotted. So as long as you have concentrated hours on the work that you're specifically doing and working on the most important next step, you're good to go. So I had that. That's one. Number two is I spent a decade in the military and I was unhappy. I had anxiety. I was depressed. I didn't always enjoy my time in. So that built like a fire within me in order to um, plan my life out as best as I could post Air Force. I knew I wasn't going to retire. I didn't want to spend another decade, 20 years in order to retire
Yeah.
just to get, a pretty good monthly income. But to me, 10 years was not worth another 10 years was not worth that. So
Yeah.
that anger, I guess, that like uncomfortable me not loving what I was doing every day just fueled me even more to make my career now as a realtor worth it. Every single
Yeah.
penny that was not allocated toward me surviving um, while I was in the military was dedicated toward stocks, like a TSP, investments, property, literally everything to put myself more financially ahead. So that way I
Hmm.
could, achieve my arbitrary goal of
Right.
separating the military as a millionaire, which I did.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's why. Had I been happy in whether or not it's the military, I could have been working for whatever. Had I been content enough, I wouldn't have had that fire to like, just go and get after it.
For sure, for sure. You got to put yourself in uncomfortable places and just like live like no one else so that you can live like no one else, right?
Exactly.
Dave Ramsey. So, I mean, that's exactly it. Store up, everything that you can to start investing it and making your money multiply on itself and living below your means, which is a really important thing. But you just segued into your realtor status, which you've been a realtor now for 2 years. And that is the second part of the story that I love about just what you've been able to create in that space. So now you're buying investments and now you transition to this space of, okay, I'm gonna get my license and do this now. And I can't remember the number of how many realtors are in the Arizona market specifically, but there's a ton, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it takes them quite a bit of while to be able to generate what you've been able to generate in such a short time period. So tell us about a little bit about that journey and how you feel like the strategies you've used to be able to create and multiply your sales income in the realtor space.
So a lot to unpack there. Where should I start?
I
know. So I'll start with this. My wife actually had told me to become a realtor years ago, 5 years ago, in my in the deepest depths of my misery within the military. She's like, hey, why don't you just get out, become a realtor, and we'll make it work. Even if you make no money, I can support us. So super grateful that I had a partner, one with a steady job, and two,
Right.
that was willing to support me not making money.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's a huge blessing. And so knowing that I had that security, security blanket in case I fail, I had that in the back of my mind. But at the time, 5 years ago, I thought being a realtor was opening up doors, showing pretty kitchens, talking about engineering. And it's just like, that's all the things that are not me. Dressing up. I don't like dressing up. That is not me. So I was like, I didn't understand that being a realtor is a whole business. There are KPIs, it's a sales funnel. And I just never understood that because I only saw HGTV and
One
like
side.
selling
Yeah.
Sunset. Yeah, it's like this is all drama and high heels, and that's not for me. so, um, so I sat on that for a couple of years and thinking, what else can I do? Should I start like a swimming lesson company? Because I was once upon a time a lifeguard, like I thought of everything. And then at the end, I was like, you know what? I do like real estate because I am an investor first. Maybe I
Yeah.
will work with only investors as a realtor. And okay, I'll give it a shot. It costs $600 for entry, pretty much for the course at the time.
Right.
Now it might be like a couple hundred more. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot while I am still active duty, because in case I don't like it, I can hold
Fall
off and
back.
continue. Yeah.
For sure.
Continue being active duty, hold on to my W-2 until one, I can match my military income. And two, if I know I like it. If I satisfy those two things, I'm out of the military. And so I got my license in late 2021. So I'm almost up on 2 years. I'm shy of that. And I am so glad that I did it while I was active duty because military people are always moving. We call it PCSing. It's always PCS season. Always. People are always moving. And those that want to buy are going to buy. It's not the same thing as working with investors who, again, I thought originally I was going to tailor toward. Nope.
Right.
Investors don't have to invest. They will invest when the time and the money and everything works for them.
Everything makes sense. Yep.
Yeah, with military, hey, they're used to being told you're moving next month to across the country. Good luck. And that's just they're a different breed. They are a different breed. So being around that, I already had a community, I already had a sphere. I started telling everyone that I know I was in real estate, or now rather a real estate agent. So I started connecting, getting referrals, connecting people that I knew to real estate agents that I trusted already. And my clientele picked up really quick. So that's why whenever like a new
I'm going to
agent,
stop you right there because something
please.
you just said is number one, I'm just talking about strategies, right? Like you tapped into the community that you were already a part of.
Yeah.
you were somewhat your avatar or your own customer. Like, I'm in the military. I know what military people experience. They're always having to go off and move to certain parts of the world. And so you're a realtor in the state that you're living in. You're not a realtor necessarily in the state they're going to. Hey,
Mhm.
how can I still make income on somebody that I know? And I want to put them in the hands of somebody that's trusted, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm going to
Yeah,
keep. I just
exactly.
wanted to stop you there because that's a space. The referral space is a space that not a lot of people don't think about, right? So
Yeah, yeah. And of course, I don't have every, every Air Force base because that's mainly who I work with is just Air Force
yeah,
movers, PCSers, clients. So I don't have a good realtor at every space. If I don't have one, I tell them, hey, I've never actually sent a client to wherever it is, like South Dakota.
right,
Here are a couple that so instead I do research for them and I say, here are a couple that I think would be good based off of reviews, based off of other people saying that they are good. Interview them, let me know how it goes. Happy to make the connection, book so that way you can interview them. Um,
right.
Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Either way, I'm happy to help. So that's how I look at it. And then also with my own like business in Tucson, Arizona, I had a lot of clients and therefore I'm, super grateful, but also I talk to as many people as I can. That's all sales is talking. How
Yeah,
many conversations can you have?
right.
So because of that, because I had so many clients, I needed to build my team. I realized I needed to because I was the only one like working solo in Tucson, Arizona. I didn't have someone else in Tucson that had the same processes, checklists, scripts, like not mannerisms, but way of doing business
Yeah,
that I did. So, but rather than referring out people that came to me and already trust me, I didn't want to refer them out to a different brokerage. I easily could have, but I didn't know how they would do things. So I focused on growing my team, and in less than 2 years, I now have almost 30 agents, not just in
wow.
Tucson, but yeah, nationwide. So now I know like there are people that I can truly just trust, refer out to, and they will get the job done better than I will. Yeah.
I gotta, because people want to know, right? So you have a couple superpowers now, right? So you talked about just you figured out, okay, what systems is making me successful, right? So you talk about your checklist and things like that. How did you go about, just creating a system? And it may be from your military background, hey, I'm a very structured individual. And because I have that, once again, that could be your superpower, right? Because I have that structure, that work ethic, that I'm going to create a system that other people can follow that's working and has been successful for me. I mean, is that part of how you kind of created the kind of the rhythm or the system for yourself? Just
with Without a doubt. Oh yeah, cuz the way I always think about things is if I'm having a conversation more than once about the same thing with someone else, that's a process. That can be written down somewhere. I could make a video on that and then therefore make that video part of the process, the checklist that the buyers see, that the sellers see. So in that way, I'm not having to repeat myself over and over again. I can put all of the thoughts related to that one section of selling your home. And in that way, I can always refer them back to the video, and that client always has access to that video. They can rewind, they
that's
can
good.
pause.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. And I'm always trying to think of selling my business, fast forward, 10, 15, 30 years. Um, how can I make this in such a way where a stranger, a complete stranger who might want to buy my business, can they just jump on in and know exactly what they're doing
Yeah.
every day, what the next step is for each
That's
client?
good. That's good. Systems is such a critical part of any business. And
Yeah.
you said it earlier, real estate is a business, right? So you have to really have kind of how am I going to execute, who are the customers that I'm going to be going after, making the shift from, hey, I'm doing it all by myself, realizing, hey, I can't do it all by myself. I've already created these systems. How did you really select how did you catch the 30 people that are now on your team? How did that process look like? How did you go about that?
Social media was probably the biggest. I was just posting my day to day activities. I'm going to go show a buyer a house. I'm going to a listing appointment and I got the listing, or maybe I didn't get the listing. That's happened one time. Just going about my day, just doing my normal activities,
Yeah.
that attracts other agents. And wasn't even doing it to attract other agents. I was just posting my story actually to attract clients. But other agents started reaching out saying, how are you so busy? How do you have so many clients? This is your first year. You did 20 transactions. How?
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, so I shared with them what I knew. It was like the checklist that I had. Um, Mainly the checklists that I have are now for those like in my downline, and they have unlimited access to me. Like, hit me up whenever you want. I'm here for you. In helping them, they're like, you know what, my brokerage doesn't provide that, so can we have a conversation? And so happily did. That's how. Um, yeah, that's really how
Yeah.
social media.
No, I love that. I love that. One key thing that I will pull out of that is your willingness and your openness to help teach your strategies, not really even thinking like, okay, yeah, this has been working for me. That opened the door, it sounds like, opened the door for you to be able to really grow your business. So just that vulnerability of like, oh, if I share, they're not going to take my business, right? Like I say having an abundant mindset, having an
Yes.
openness to say, hey, we can all play in this space. We can all make money, right? And I
Yeah.
want to be able to be a guide for people, because really the gap is that there are a ton of agents that have been in the business and they're not producing, right? And so how can I be of support to that? And you've been able to like expand with that just willingness to help and putting your tips out there, been able to expand from like 0 to 30, in the span of what, a year and a half?
Yeah, a year and a half. And
Yeah.
and the best part is that we're not a formal team. Like, I really try to stay away from you even using the word team, because team implies a cut, like I would take a cut. I don't take a cut of anybody. You keep your whole thing. Like, I give you the resources for free, just have
Yeah.
like the like client, what's the word? Just customer service that we have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's helped.
Now, is it because of the brokerage that you're a part of that works and it works well, or how does that?
Yeah, I can get into the numbers on that too. So, the with the way EXP model is pretty similar to Keller Williams and like other real estate brokerages, but different at the same time. So they have the revenue share where uh, if you sponsor an agent in that produces, right, they have to sell, otherwise there's no money to make. It's an it's an 80-20 split, like normal 80-20 split for everyone. That 20% that otherwise in other brokerages would go to a team leader, that would go to the small, the broker of the small company. Instead of that going straight to the president of EXP, that 20% is chipped away and goes to the sponsors of that agent. So, meaning those that sponsor you in, everyone in your upline is literally incentivized to help you succeed.
That's
So I
good.
think that's like one of the smartest models. And Keller Williams has something too, but it's profit share. So by literally profit versus revenue, one is above the line, one's below the line. With profit share, you don't make as much. So that's why. And I will say that 7-8 months into me having grown the team, the money that I make off of revenue share outperforms all of my rental properties combined. And
Wow.
and it was more fun working with agents as opposed to, rental properties. I
Having to
found,
show
you know,
something.
yeah. So I was like, what? This is a win-win. It's a win for me.
Yeah.
It's a win for the agent. And
Yeah.
so now I'm making 3 times the amount of what I was making on all of my rental properties combined in growing the team and showing them that they could do the same thing. And they are. So
Wow. That's
yeah,
good
it's
stuff.
awesome.
And you've gone, because of the brokerage you're part of, being that it's nationwide, you've been able to reach your hands out across, not just in the state you're in, but into other geographical locations, which is pretty dope.
And if I wanted to, I could go worldwide too, because EXP is like one brokerage worldwide. So the reason I joined is because I, at the time, thought I might might still stay in the military. I didn't want to have to hang up my license, exit out of a brokerage,
Got you.
find a
And then,
new, yeah,
for sure, for
exactly.
sure. No, that's good. Good concept. Well,
Yeah.
this is lessons into blessings, and we can't end lessons into blessings without really asking you something that you have learned, maybe an adversity that you faced that really seemed like it was probably the end of the world at a time, but you've been able to pivot into a blessing. You see it now as a blessing. What would that adversity be, and how have you been able to pivot it, or what lessons were you able to glean from that?
I have so many, but I will
I
rehash.
know, I can only imagine.
Yeah. I'll rehash and like dig deeper into the what I stated previously of how I was so depressed in the military. Like I was on all of the medications. I was at the lowest of the low, and there I just thought there was no way out of this. I have to do the 20 years, golden handcuffs before I can then live my life. And
Yeah,
at the time, I thought there was really like no other way around it. I just thought, the military was it. It's, and looking back now, my personal opinion, I think that's the lazy way of thinking. Instead of thinking, how can I be in charge of my own life? Let me just sit back and I'll just complain about what the Air Force tells me to do. No, so I took that where at the time I was just so angry. Um, and I just took control of my life. I literally, got out of bed, I snapped out of it, and I thought, what could I do? I need to control my life. Other people are doing it. There are people that make it work and they're not in the military. I want to do the same thing. So there
what
was
created
actually,
that snap?
yeah, there was a and that what specifically where that snap was is I tried to separate from the military and I was denied. Even after I did my full commitment, I was denied my separation, and that is what lit the fire in me, and I said, "Okay, no
Gotcha.
more penny." Like the best revenge, I don't want to use like revenge, but the best way for like to put myself ahead, um in other words, FU money, the best way I can have FU money is I will not let any penny go to waste. I'm not going to, go out to the bars and, do anything. I'm going to save and invest as much as I can. So in that way, at the next opportunity that I can leave, I am prepared. I am prepared. So that's,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you got
that's
that
also a lesson.
exit.
I love.
But you know
Yeah.
what? Coming off of Memorial Day, we thank you for your service and the years you put in. Because I mean, if people don't know all the stories and the experiences that you have when you're in there, and the
Yeah.
mental toll and the physical toll that it has on our service members. So we appreciate your service from that standpoint, and everything that you've learned that you've been able to parlay now into the real estate game. So nothing is taken for granted, right?
Yeah.
You needed that to be able to kind of get to where you're at right now. So that's an awesome thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, if
Yeah,
and at the time I didn't think of it as a blessing, but now looking back, it is because had I
yeah,
been content enough, I would still be in it. I wouldn't have any desire to achieve financial independence, but I love it.
mm,
Now I'm on a whole new
yeah.
track and I love my life.
That's cool stuff. That's cool stuff. Well, thank you for joining us, Ali. How can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. The best way is Instagram. My handle is Ali the Agent, and that's Ali spelled ALI, with some underscores in between. Ali the Agent. I respond to all messages.
Good stuff. Good stuff. That customer service. I love it.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys for joining us for another Lessons into Blessings. Until next time, stay blessed.